Do 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 do. Da, 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 da. Hi everyone. Welcome to Historia.
I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
And if you didn't notice, we are doing an episode all about our favorite place, Disneyland.
Disneyland. Whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah, so Kylie and I, we went in September together.
We did. We had a little bestie trip.
It was awesome.
It was so fun.
We got tattoos. We got Disney tattoos.
We did. And we rode in a lot of Teslas.
We did. There's a lot of Teslas in California.
Yeah.
It's the new Prius.
True.
But then I went in February with my sister, and that was amazing. Mm-hmm. We were right smack in the middle of a nasty rainstorm that California was getting, that led to flooding later on in San Diego and other parts of California. It was freaking crazy.
It's been raining the last 2 years in California when they never had rain before that.
Literally. And they're also having really bad snowstorms up north.
So crazy.
Yeah. And California is just having a moment.
But anyway, if you missed last week's episode, go listen to the story of Walt Disney.
The myth.
The myth. Wait, did you say the man or the myth?
I kind of said both.
The math. The math.
The legend. Walt Disney.
Oh my God.
So today we're going to be talking about his baby. Not his actual baby.
His creative baby.
His creative one.
His art baby.
Other than Walt Disney Studios. I'm surprised he made it through the depression.
He really just kept it going.
Dude, that's tough. Everybody was poor then.
Yeah, I think he just had so many people who believed in him and supported him.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah.
So this week we're going to be talking about the billion-dollar industry and how he and many others created it. So I'm going to be talking about Disneyland and then about a little bit about the adjacent ones. I will try to... This is not going to be exactly like my old episode that I made because my dog ate my notes.
Like, it sounds like an excuse, but it happened, actually.
He literally chewed and shredded my notebook that I had of like all of my old notes because I used to write my notes on paper. And I came home one day and it was just shredded all over the floor. And I was like, well... So I had to start from scratch. So there is definitely some stuff that I'm missing from my OG. So if you want to get through that tough episode, you're more than free. Because
just go to episode 4 and then fast forward like an hour into it. Yeah. And then you'll hear about Disneyland. Yes.
And there is definitely going to be some things that I'm not covering today that I'm going to try and remember to cover. But even like before we even started this episode, I was like, oh shit, I didn't add this into it. And Kylie's like, just add it casually in.
Just slide it on in.
I will try to. So we'll see. So today we are going to be talking about Arms to Disney. He hated being called that. So Walt.
Oh, yeah.
Fine. All right. So before we get started, let me go over where I got my information pulled. So I pulled from a few different websites since I wanted to add a little on the other parks that I didn't find my primary research on. So I pulled from Disney Connect website, Touring Plans website, Designing Disney website, Disney History 101 website, and the PBS website. PBS has everything. Mm-hmm. But I also kind of like some things I might spit in are also from Behind the Attraction because that show is freaking amazing.
Hell to the yeah.
Paget Brewster is such a great host.
Yeah.
She's so funny.
I love her.
I love her too. It's just weird to think that she was in Criminal Minds.
Oh, yeah.
But she's also in Drunk History.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Classic. They're like the best shows.
She's great. She's great. She does a great mix. So let's get started. So it is 1954 and Walt Disney, the creator of a successful motion picture company, decided It was time to put in motion an idea he had brewing. So it was just like, for the last few years, it was just
Brewing and brewing.
just circulating. He was like, this would be great. I think I have all these ideas.
Telling people to write shit down.
So he loved seeing everyone enjoy the movies that he had and his team have created. And he wanted, as he quoted, a fabulous playground, something of a fair, a city from the Arabian Nights, a metropolis of the future, a showplace of magic and living facts, but above all, a place for people to find happiness and knowledge.
Cries.
That's a good quote from him.
Yeah, I like Mickey Mouse more than women.
Oh, God. So this idea he pondered for years. So Walt would go to other early developed amusement parks and carnivals, and his inspiration hit. Like, he was writing down notes, being all kind of creepy stalkerish, kind of just writing down notes like, oh, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. He wanted people to have an interactive experience with not only the movies that he and his team has created, the company, but also have a magical experience along with it. He really wanted his ideas to be taken out of the movie context and put into real life scenarios, which I think they have done a pretty fine job with that.
Yes, for sure.
It would be in 1952 that Walt would gather a team of his artists and designers and create a company called WED. It's literally his initials. Yeah. That would have the sole purpose of making his idea a reality. He wanted an amusement park, but also to make it into something no one had ever seen before. So he, going to all these amusement parks and like the world fairs and stuff, he's just like, this is a cool idea, but I want to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
To even make this a possibility, the Disney brothers would need the capital first. So Roy and Walt would go to ABC to obtain some of the funding, which they agreed to only if he created a show that would be aired weekly of the progression of the park. It would be called Disneyland TV. At this point, America was still recovering from the war economically, so it was a big risk for the Disney company, but Walt was persistent. Now they had the capital, now they needed a location. Many of the amusement parks and attractions in the area were in Los Angeles, and Walt had to keep in mind that of what he could afford. I did not know that Knott's Berry Farm is older than Disneyland.
It is?
Yeah, it was like 1928 when it opened.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that place is hell old.
Jesus.
Yeah, so there was a lot of amusement parks down south, and he was like, I need to find something a little bit cheaper in my range. So an area that would capture his attention would be a small city at the time called Anaheim. The land that Walt found was originally an orange grove. From what I found, they purchased 160 acres and planned to use as much of it as possible. So groundbreak would begin in middle of July 1954. Accounts have the date between July 7th or July 12th and July 17th. They couldn't. There's a bunch of people that are like, no, it's this date. No, it's this date. It's this date. It's like, okay. So excavation would then take place in August 1954, and the race began. Walt Disney had the expectation and timeline that the park would be open in a year's time. That's so freaking short time.
Yeah.
It takes them like a land at least 2 or 3 years now to build.
Yeah, 1 year. Oh, God.
For a whole freaking park.
Yeah.
That is a lot. And I mean, like, this was an orange grove. They had to take out all of those orange trees.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They used to smell like oranges.
That smells so good. This would be a huge ask of the people involved, but it was taken seriously and with determination. Even if that meant that all-nighters were often occurring between everyone involved. Like, people were working nonstop on this project. We had in charge at the site personal manager Fred Newcomb, and in charge of property design coordination, construction admin, and maintenance analysis was Charles Wilkinson. Now, the construction company involved was the McNeil Construction Company. They would start moving in their equipment to start the work in July of 1954. Now, this was no easy project. The men in the company would go on to have to remove thousands of trees. I think it was like 10,000 trees or something. Oh, wow. It was a shit ton of them. And this included orange trees, eucalyptus trees, and walnut trees. So uprooting all of these, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then you have to get started on the other stuff. So during his busy schedule, the year of production, Walt made it a priority to visit the site daily. He was going every single day. He was coming up to Anaheim from wherever, and he's like, okay, how's it going? Where have we dug up all the trees yet? So he would tour around to see the progress each day, seeing his vision develop, which is actually pretty cool because if you're going every day, like you're seeing little by little to see how much it's like progressing.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's so cool.
That is really cool.
So along with building Disneyland, the show started to be broadcasted on its progress in hopes for what the park will bring. So this was on ABC. There would be a total of 152 stations that would air the Disneyland series.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Even including some in Canada. So the word was getting around. People were interested. The first episode would air on October 17th, 1954. The viewership not only attracted families, but also people who wanted to work for Disneyland. Those who wanted to get involved consisted of helping when it came to maintenance, carpentry, etc. So I don't think he flat out asked people for help, but people are like, oh my God, this is so cool. I got to get involved.
Yeah.
So this year of construction would be a tough one for the crew, as 1954 was a wet year. And the crew had to figure out how to manage how they were going to dig and build without it all sinking into the ground. Like I think in Behind the Attraction, when they were talking about like building Jungle Cruise, how much of a process that was a tough one to build.
With the water and everything.
Yeah, to get everything, because like this area is so freaking dry that trying to add like huge things of water and then trying to like get the mud not to be like so slippery and trying to build like around it.
Took a hot minute.
It did. And they had to find their niche of what could work. So they would also manage and continue building the park and adding to the listing of jobs from bookkeepers, security office, and other office workers. So continuously they were hiring new people to get this park in motion. About 2 months before the park was to open, and $17 million had already been spent. So there was 2 months left, and they had already spent $17 million on this park. And more terrifying than this large sum of cash was that they were behind schedule. A year is not long enough. The employment of work would boost tremendously in these last months as they were determined to have an opening day be a reality. But of course, there were other hurdles Walt and the crew had to overcome. A problem would arise when the plumbers that were hired went on strike, demanding that a union be recognized for them. This would be a big issue if they did not get it settled. It would then be brought to the Orange County Central Labor Council for the plumbers to be unionized and for work to continue. Because of this strike, there would be a delay in the construction of the bathrooms and water fountains.
Kind of important.
I would say so, yeah. So that was a big hurdle for them to deal with. But I mean, you have to. And I mean, if they're hiring that many people and you're working these long ass hours, like Walt had to. You
got to do something, buddy.
Yeah. And you can't just blame them for wanting to unionize. It's like you're giving this like almost impossible task to get done in a year and making these people work 24/7. Like they're going to want to be compensated for that effort and time that they're putting in.
Right.
And I just don't think he saw any of that as relevant.
Right.
Which is an issue.
Oh, yeah.
So newsflash, this would be a big problem opening day of the lasting effect of this strike. So as construction continued on, the TV series would be coming to an end. So all throughout the year, they were having this series. It was really bringing people in. Like, I think I've seen a few clips from the TV series where He literally was just talking to the camera, and then he had like a giant table of just the setup of Disneyland, and he would talk about his hopes and plans and kind of go into like depths of like all the lands and all of like pretty much the attractions and stuff that you would be experiencing at Disneyland for opening day or just going to there. And people were just like, whoa, this is so cool and so unique. Like, who freaking knew this could be a thing? So it was decided that a live broadcast of the opening day would be filmed, which is going to be real interesting. Another group would be busy making the control rooms and strategizing how they were going to navigate the broadcast. So as it was getting closer, like they had people from ABC going in to like kind of strategize, like, okay, how are we going to film this section or this part? Because it was going to be like a 90-minute film, so an hour and a half. So that takes a lot of planning of like, okay, how can we make this go as smooth as possible? So in the last weeks until opening day, it was a rush to get everything done on time. Workers were pretty much living on the site, taking short naps to get them through the night. Some were just sleeping on like wood planks.
That's so bad.
Yeah. It was not great. Why didn't they just have
a night crew and a day crew?
Because that would mean hiring more people.
True.
Even 3 days before opening, there was still debris around the parks and roads still unpaved and some buildings needing to be completed. These were days before opening. So 600 people in these last days were added to the payroll to get the park up to standard.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. The night before, asphalt would still be pouring down on the road, and flowers were still needing to be planted. It was going to be an interesting opening day. Now, the day finally arrives, and boy, did they have a day ahead of them. The day was Sunday, July 17th, 1955. This was not opening for the public, but an opening for invited guests. So 6,000 invitations would be sent out to families of the construction workers, studio workers, and the press/officials of the company's sponsors. So approximately 11,000 people were invited to the soft opening. They're like, okay, this is going to be great. We're just going to have these groups that were invited. They can come get their tickets, and it's going to go smooth.
Yeah.
Admission for a ticket to Disneyland would be $1. And you actually had to pay for the rides, like separately, kind of like a carnival.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So the rides would vary between 10 cents and 30 cents. So you're paying $1 to get into the park, and then like per ride you're paying like, let's say like a whole day you're spending like $5.
It makes so much more sense to just raise the price of the park admission.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least they stopped doing per ride.
Yeah. Oh my God, we'd all be screwed.
So later on, they would sell ride booklets that one could purchase for $2.50, but that was down the road. These booklets were pretty much like you paid $2.50 and you got like 5 ride admission tickets in this booklet. So that was pretty much like the whole like startup of it.
Yeah.
The tickets looked so sick. I'm like, I wish they still did paper tickets like that.
I know. I love paper tickets.
Oh, that would be so fun. So the tickets provided for this opening all had different times that people could show up, but this eventually would lead to a problem. So pretty much in the soft opening, instead of having all these 11,000 people just show up at once, it was like, oh, you had the 10 a.m. slot. Mm-hmm. Oh, you had the 1 p.m. slot.
Like a reservation.
Yeah, it was like it was literally a reservation system that they had going on that was like on the tickets. And so they thought, oh, well, this is going to be like a decent way on how to do it. But it didn't really go to plan.
You can't really kick people out.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think it was just so much mass chaos that they weren't really checking the time slots on these cards.
Yeah.
And I think that's where an issue was. So along with this opening day, there was the big broadcast. It would be called Dateline Disneyland on ABC. It'd be a 90-minute special that 90 million people would tune into. When I did my first research on this, I watched it all. It looked like it was pretty smooth, but you can tell where like some areas were really awkward and it was just like, oh, that's tough. So many problems would arise during the special. There were times that the cameras would just randomly start rolling. Some were missing their marks, and the constant rush from getting one area to the next was very constant throughout the whole hour and a half.
Oh my God, I need to watch it.
Yeah, but it didn't matter. People were hooked and wanted to visit. Disneyland opened with 5 original lands and 20 opening day attractions. First, we have Adventureland, then Frontierland, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, and the classic Main Street, USA, where you cry when you enter the park.
Yep. And then it smells like popcorn.
So opening day, they had the following rides that many are still open to today. There was Autotopia, the classic railroad with our terrain, the Disneyland Band, parades, Jungle Cruise, the King Arthur Carousel, Mad Tea Party, and the Main Street Cinema, the Mark Twain Riverboat, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Peter Pan's Flight, Snow White's Scary Adventures, and the Storybook Land Canal Boats.
Aww. They're all like right next to each other.
Those are all the OGs. So for a soft opening, many rides still in development, it was surprising that they had many completed by this day's opening. The struggle of the day would occur first thing. So not even all of the rides that were still in development were open. So like Dumbo came out later. Like I'll go through my list when I'm done to see like what rides that came out later on, like in the month or that same year. So many California residents wanted to be a part of this opening day. They're like, oh my God, only invited guests? I don't think so. It made everything chaotic. So the interstate would be backed up for miles.
Oh my God.
As people waited to get off the interstate to get into the parking lots. Like it was so...
Imagine just trying to go to work.
Dude, it was a nightmare. Because of the flood of people, parking was a complete nightmare. People would be stuck driving around for a spot. It didn't help either that it was the middle of summer and the temperature for the day was record high. It would be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit on this day.
Oh.
In the 50s. These women were wearing these big ass dresses
In July.
In July. So people waiting in their cars would be overheating due to the lack of proper AC because it was the 1950s and AC wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
And many would have to use a bathroom on the side of the road because of how long they were waiting. Hygiene did not matter.
No.
So the doors would open around 2:30 p.m., but many would arrive first thing in the morning.
2:30?
Yeah, they had because
it
was just a soft opening.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like prime hot.
Yeah.
Middle of the day.
Oh, God.
Oof. Now, only if 11,000 would be entering the park, how could they allow more in, though? What the heck was going on? There was a thing called counterfeit tickets going around. Somehow people had made these fake tickets. I don't know how. I think they tricked the ticket person. I really don't know how. I'm very curious. Which got them through the park doors. I do remember from my original episode on this that people even so much had set up a ladder to hop over the fence of the park to get in.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was fucking...
Well, now you got security guards around it.
Dude, it's literally crazy. Yeah. There may have been well over 20,000 people that attended this park opening.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like a pretty iconic thing to do.
Literally, so they almost doubled the amount of people that were there. Wow. So this did not stop the chaos from there. The Mark Twain boat would capsize as there were so many people that wormed their way onto the boat and the weight couldn't withstand like on the water. So it kind of just like started sinking.
Is it the one they have now?
I mean, they could have updated it since.
I would assume, yeah.
But yeah, it was not great because they had to get everybody off.
Because I wonder how many people you can fit on it now.
Well, I'm sure they count it, but
yeah,
it was like jam packed to
so
like
crazy.
the brim. Yeah,
how'd they think that was a good idea?
I don't know. Well, I don't know why they just kept letting people on.
I know, you gotta cap it at some point.
Literally, I don't know what they were thinking. At one point in the day, there was a gas leak in Fantasyland, so they had to close the area until it was free from the leak. One of the biggest problems that people were starting to get throughout the day was the lack of bathrooms and water fountains. So I think they had a lack of water fountain use because of like the whole strike that was going on. They had to decide, okay, are we going to have more water fountains or bathrooms? And they decided on bathrooms. But they were still like super packed. And I think that's why there's so many bathrooms now at Disneyland.
There's a lot.
There's really not a lot of water fountains though.
Yeah. They have like the water bottle fillers.
Yeah.
Fucking nasty water.
At least it's not Florida water.
True.
Dude, I refuse to drink Florida water.
Oh, yeah. It's disgusting.
Shit's so gross. They also poured the asphalt the night before, and the temps were so high. The road was very soft, and women's heels were sinking into the pavement. So women were taking their shoes off.
Oh, my God.
And walking around barefoot.
Oh, that's gotta burn.
Yeah, I'm like, that has to be really hot. Food was also running out, and the rides were constantly breaking down. It was a hot mess.
Imagine wearing heels to Disney.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just can't. They did that on Modern Family.
Dude.
But I'm like, I just can't imagine that.
That hurts.
I know you didn't have to walk as much back then, but like still.
Yeah. Those heels are not comfortable. There's no memory foam.
Yeah.
So there was nothing smooth sailing about this opening day. They would call this opening fiasco the Black Sunday.
I love that.
But though they had a discouraging first day, this did not prevent Walt from thinking it was a failure. So people wanted to go so bad, they risked a lot to get themselves into the park. Disneyland would have a lot of obstacles to face in the future, but I think this opening day prepped them for what they could handle for anything to be thrown at them.
Yeah.
I mean, this was rough. So after, I don't know if I thought I added who hosted the broadcast. I know Ronald Reagan did.
Yeah.
President Ronald Reagan. We had Art Linkletter and, oh God, I think it was Bob Cummings.
Oh, okay.
So these were really big, three like big actor personalities of the 50s and 60s. When I watched it and I saw Ronald Reagan, I was like, holy shit, I forgot he was an actor before he was president.
Yeah.
This really shows that America will let anybody become president.
That's true.
It's so wild to me.
That's funny.
But I just thought that was funny. I was like, wow, he actually broadcasted something. Disneyland opening day. Love it. But I don't know. So after this mess of a first day, Walt and his team were prepared to have better control of the public opening day. So Monday, July 18th, 1955, Disneyland was open to the public.
I feel like they should have waited a couple days and fixed all their issues.
Literally.
But okay.
Yeah. So Disneyland was set to open at 10 a.m., but people were lining up at the door as early as 2 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There were already articles on the day before and about how like of a disaster this opening day was, the Black Sunday. But Walt just brushed it off and prepped for the day. He was like, whatever. We'll see how it goes. There would be about 15,000 people who waited to enter the park this day. So Walt and his crew did not think that attendance would be high so fast. It was after 52 days that Disneyland had already hit their 1 millionth customer.
Wow.
They were not planning on that.
That's so crazy.
Mm-hmm. It was clear and quick to see that Disneyland had become one of the top attractions to go to. Those who lived in the area would continuously visit, and celebrities flocked to the area. I would list them, but my God, there are a lot.
Everyone who was famous.
Well, one of my one of the articles that I was reading, like each year that I had for the park was just a bunch of celebrities.
Yeah.
And famous people that were going to the park. And I was like, I'm not writing all these down.
No.
So some notable figures were Clayton Moore, who was the OG Lone Ranger. We had Mr. Frank Sinatra. We had Jerry Lewis and Ronald Reagan, of course. So a lot of old school actors that these were like old school actors that people don't think of. So by the end of the year, Disneyland had welcomed 5,683,835 guests in 1 year. This was double, almost double of what they expected.
Jeez.
So this was well over the estimation that Walt and his team originally planned on, and the disaster that started Disneyland was only a hiccup to its possibilities of what could become.
The costumes.
Literally. The costumes. Disneyland was becoming such a hot commodity that contests were being held to obtain special admission. One of the contests was to obtain what they called a gold key. This gave the person free admission around the park. I feel like this gives introduction vibes to what is now the Magic Key holders.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like you get free admission, which like that's what the key holders, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
So within the next couple years, Disneyland started to really expand. By 1957, there were more than 35 attractions to the park and 15 shows going on. So on July 31st, so I'm just going to do in 1955. So these were like coming out, like these were opening like months.
Yeah.
So we had the Casey Junior Circus Train in Fantasyland. That came out July 31st, 1955. We had Dumbo the Flying Elephant opening in August 16th. I love that ride.
Yeah.
We had Pirates Lair on Tom Sawyer's Island. That came out June 16th, 1956. So these started to be, more started to come out in 1956. Alice in Wonderland came out in 1958. I feel like that was the next big one that came out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
They were probably working on that one for a while.
Matterhorn opened in June 14th, 1959.
Oh, wow.
And then the Tiki Room came out June 23rd, 1963.
Oh, my God. I thought it'd be earlier.
It's a Small World came out May 28th, 1966. We had Pirates of the Caribbean March 18th, 1967. Unfortunately, Walt would never be able to see Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion.
Oh.
Yeah, he never saw Space Mountain,
Oh
Big Thunder.
Oh, my God.
Pinocchio. Splash Mountain.
I'm surprised Pinocchio took so long to come out.
I just don't think it was big enough.
Yeah. I'm surprised it was ever a ride, honestly.
But yeah, there's a lot that just he never got like those big ones. He had in development the Pirates of the Caribbean, and he had the Haunted Mansion in the works before he died. Like they had them all planned out. Like there's episodes behind the attraction on both of these.
Yeah.
And it focuses primarily on like the development stages of it. Like originally Walt wanted like a haunted house type feel, and he was kind of experimenting with different things about it. So the actually of what is the Haunted Mansion was not really the idea that Walt had for it, but what they ended up creating, which everybody loves.
Yeah.
And Pirates of the Caribbean was, he wanted something similar to like kind of what it turned out to be. I don't believe he wanted it. I don't think he planned on how they were going to do it in that aspect of what they ended up doing. But I mean, he wanted something with pirates because Treasure Island was one of his favorites, because that was a book that he read growing up, was Treasure Island. And so he really loved that kind of vibe of like the pirates and stuff. So creating a ride like that. But unfortunately, because it took so long to get the development of it, he wasn't able to see it.
So sad. That ride is so good.
It is.
It's
but
like everyone's favorite.
At least like knowing that, okay, he had this in mind.
Yeah, true.
So same with like the Haunted Mansion. But when it came to like Space Mountain or those other ones, Big Thunder, I think he wanted something similar for Big Thunder. But
oh yeah.
I mean, they kind of just had to go off of what they believed people would like.
Right.
And also keep like the theme of it in mind, which I think they've done a pretty good job with. So an attraction though that has been a part of Disneyland was also introduced during this year, that during this first year in 1957. This show would be the Fantasy in the Sky fireworks show.
Aw.
So Disneyland fireworks. It started only on Friday and Saturday nights during the summer, but it has now expanded to all year round, and people always look forward to them at the end of the night. So I thought that was crazy. I was like, wow.
I didn't know it started that early.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He was really into it. He just wanted that fun experience.
I wonder what the first show was like. Just a few fireworks.
Something probably caught on fire.
Probably.
So Disneyland would only continue to grow, and by 1959, there would be already 47 attractions to the park.
Wow.
It was expanding fast.
In 4 years?
Mm-hmm. When the 1960s came around, Walt knew that Disneyland was in the secure hands and on the up, but he wanted to expand his creation that Anaheim didn't have to offer. So it was also during this time frame that I'm just going to briefly mention because I do think it's important because it really shows just how progressive he wanted to be. And that was the 1964 New York World's Fair, where he really introduced the animatronics. And It's a Small World was one of the ones that he was showing and introducing. He was just like, this is a huge what Disneyland has to offer and what we're planning to do with it. Like, these animatronics were becoming so big.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's so many possibilities that we can do with it. And It's a Small World was such a great one to see because it brought really the world together. And so that's really what created It's a Small World, was this idea of what he brought to the World's Fair, and pretty much just went from there, made it a ride in the park, made people who saw it at the World's Fair was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go there and I'm going to ride that.
It like connects everyone around the world.
It does.
So cute.
And I mean, I think that was the whole premise of that ride, was because there's so many international people who were coming to the park, as well as just locals or people from around the country, that it was bringing everybody together to this magical land. And It's a Small World really does that.
Yeah.
And I just think the World's Fair he really brought that, he and his team really brought that creation of how advanced technology was getting at this point now. And using these animatronics, like, it just blew people's mind of like, holy shit, this is a real thing. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to put it on my rides. Just you wait. And I mean, that was a huge contributor for Pirates of the Caribbean. They really focused on those animatronics and really tried to make them as lifelike as they could. And I think they did a phenomenal job with that. And they're only making it more impressive now. It's crazy how much has grown since, and how well they've done these robots.
For sure.
It's wild. So moving forward from the World's Fair, he was like, okay, we have been expanding a lot with Disneyland, but I also have another dream. And he wanted to expand to new heights, and he needed the land to do so. He was like, California, Anaheim, it's just not going to happen here. There's just not enough land for what I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So he and his brother Roy would spend this new time looking for land to obtain for the space that he could dream of his creation, of his new creation. They would find this space in the swamps of Florida. So Walt and Roy would first start secretly buying up land in the swamps of Orlando. And Walt and Roy he pretty much like made Roy the main guy into building this new land. He was like, hey, I'm going to leave you kind of in charge of this. Like, you know exactly what I want. I will keep traveling to come see you, but I want you to focus on this project. I think you'll be in good hands of it. And Roy was like, okay, chill. So one of Walt's plans for this new park was to create a land that would be built on technology, invention, and community. The label he thought was Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. We know this land is Epcot, as you mentioned last week. Freaking love Epcot.
Oh yeah, it's iconic.
So Walt wanted Epcot to be the focal point of the new park he was going to create, and the other parks would align along with it. So Magic Kingdom would be built along in connection to Epcot to keep the magic of Disneyland now in Florida. So it's just funny to find out that like that Magic Kingdom wasn't even like his first thought.
I know, Epcot was first.
Exactly. So he really wanted, because I think of the animatronics and stuff, he was really into like technology and just future.
He knew it was going to keep growing.
Exactly. Like he was so ahead of it and he wanted a whole land for it. And I think when you first enter Epcot, that first half is it. Mm-hmm. But then when you get to the showcase, it's just a completely different, like, new atmosphere. But it also added into his whole, why they added the showcase to Epcot was to show community of cultures, pretty much. And that's like the whole premise of it. But that first part of it is where that technology and just everything else would come together, of experimental prototypes and stuff. But I think they're just like, let's just do some of it and then kind of make it more fun. But that was years down the road.
Yeah.
The plans would then be executed and push for Disney World to start. So he's like, okay, this is going to be bigger than we think. It's going to be huge. Unfortunately, this dream that Walt had planned to see of his new creation would not come. So in December of 1966, Walt Disney would die from lung cancer. This shook the Disney Corporation to its core. The man who made everything happen and cherished it like a child was now gone. But even with the creator himself, the show still had to go on, but now in his memory. So Roy Disney would be appointed as the CEO, and he took full control of Disneyland. Though Epcot would not be how Walt planned to see it, he still wanted it to be a reality. He still wanted to make Epcot a reality and like Magic Kingdom to add for everybody. So Roy would carry out the plans for Disney World, and the park would open on October 1st, 1971. This park would be built on 28,000 acres of land, and it is still expanding to this day.
Yeah, they just keep on going.
Literally. I mean, that's the area to do it. So this park was in a whole new ballpark as more hotels, campgrounds, golf courses, and shops would be added to the area. Disney World became its own little city within Orlando.
True.
It's like a city within a city.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So as Disney World expanded, as well as the OG Disneyland, the Disney Corporation decided that it was time to expand out into the international waters. So this is fast forwarding a few years. So Roy Disney has died like 2 months after Disney World opened. That's so sad. Yeah. And then they pretty much had to keep moving forward. They're like, okay, this is getting crazy. But as time went on and the success of Disneyland and Disney World really peaked, they're like, okay, well, why don't we take this international? And so they were trying to decide where they wanted their next park to be. And they came to the conclusion that the next Disneyland park would be in Tokyo, Japan. Mm. Gotta love it.
I didn't know that was third. That makes sense, though. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I thought Paris, but I know Paris is newer.
Mm-hmm. So this went wild, and Tokyo Disneyland would open its doors in 1983. People in Asia freaking ate that shit up. They loved it.
Oh, yeah.
So this did not stop Disney, as the popularity in Tokyo encouraged the company to expand to another continent because the success was so rampant. Because like all these people who lived like in Korea, Japan, China, like Philippines, like all in the area that couldn't afford to go to America to go to Disneyland, they could just go to Tokyo now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was super successful. They did a smart marketing with that.
For sure.
So this time they decided to go to Europe. They're like, okay, so now we don't need the Europe people to come here all the time. They can just go to their own Disneyland too. So in 1992, Disneyland Paris would open its doors to those of Europeans or any Americans that wanted to go all the way there. In the following years, Disneyland has only grown, and China decided that they wanted their own. They're like, Tokyo, you've had enough. We're going to take our own. So in 2005, Hong Kong would open their own Disneyland. In 2016, Shanghai Disneyland would open.
Oh, I want to go there.
Yeah, it looks so cool. The Zootopia world looks so sick. So all these parks have unique qualities of their own, but when arriving, you know that when you just have stepped into a magical place when you enter Disneyland. So back here in the States, Disneyland has done its own expansions even with the limited space. So originally, as an interpretation of California, Disneyland would expand its borders across the way, so across the street technically, in February 2001 with DCA. So that's when it would open. So Disney California Adventure. Boop.
Yay!
Over the years, DCA has become more of a home for Pixar and Marvel, but there is still that same California representation. We have Soarin', the Grizzly, and just some of the other rides that they
Little
still
Mermaid,
have.
which is so random that it's over there.
I don't get that. Whatever. Which is crazy because the Little Mermaid in Disney World is so busy all the time, but the one at Disneyland never is because it's in DCA.
Yeah. If it was in like Fantasyland, it might be different.
100%. It's crazy. I don't know why they put it there,
So
but
random.
whatever. So over in Disney World, there was the expansion in May 1989 of MGM Studios. This would later be on what we call Hollywood Studios now. Legit. This is home to more of the films that Disney is affiliated with. So, and they have some Pixar stuff there too. Because they have the Slinky roller coaster there. And then they put the Galaxy Edge in Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
So that's where they put it in Disney World. And
I haven't been to Disney World in so long.
I went 2 years ago. And we didn't get to go to Hollywood Studios. I was really sad about that. But next time.
I think I went 12 years ago.
So much has
changed. I can't wait to go back next year.
The last park that has been added to Disney World, other than the water parks, because those are also included, was Animal Kingdom that opened in April 1998. Animal Kingdom is so cute. I love it. The safari ride is the best. And they also have expanded the Avatar land there, which is gorgeous, but Disneyland does not need it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, Disneyland's too small for that.
No, we need better lands. We need a Frozen one or a Tangled one.
Oh my God,
Just steal from the Asia ones.
Seriously, I want to go to Frozen. The Arendelle one's so bad.
It looks so cool. So the Disney Corporation has grown even more from resorts all over the world. There's also cruise lines that they're coming out with. You got to take a Disney cruise. They have some all over the world. The Alaskan one looks pretty legit.
Oh, yeah.
They also have vacation clubs and even Adventures by Disney that take families on vacations. They're like guided tours like all over the world that they do. It's crazy. They know how to market their shit. What started out as a hope to open the park that would bring families together and feel the magic has expanded into something unimaginable. Some may see this as a push for capital. I mean, who wouldn't? It is.
Yeah.
But still, people love stepping foot into the park and experiencing the wonders that Disney has to offer. And this is from their food, from the merchandise, from the rides, from just the parades, the fireworks.
It's magical every single time.
Every time.
It doesn't make any sense.
Never
gets old.
Yeah. If you appreciate Disney, you're going to appreciate the parks and go. And just like, even though I'm not happy with like how the movies are right now, stepping into Disneyland, I'm like, I honestly feel like I'm a kid again.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't have to worry about like adulting or
I'm just here to have fun and be happy.
Literally, all I want to do is get smashed in Epcot with going around the world. You got to start in Mexico. 100%.
I've heard not to because the margaritas are so strong.
Yeah, and that's where you're supposed to start, so you're feeling good through the rest of them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you don't want to end with margs.
You don't want to start in Canada. Who starts in Canada?
Boring.
You want to be passed out in the middle of like the road in Canada.
I've never done that. I've never drank around the world, so
we got to Italy, and man, I was feeling it. It was fantastic. But yeah, Disneyland and Disney World are just, and all the other like international ones, it really brings like people together. I mean, that's why we have Disney adults.
Yeah.
They're literally a community together who really share each other's like favorites of like certain foods, of like certain festivals that are going on. Like it's a whole community in itself.
And it's like positive. Like everyone makes fun of it, but it's like, it's not doing any harm to you. It's just adults being happy.
Literally just wanting good food and
finding
getting drunk.
something to be happy about in this world.
Literally, there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, everybody's going to fight about everything. So that's just how it is. But I love doing the research on Disneyland. It was an epic fail the first day, but I mean, Walt kept his head high and they just kept pushing forward, and people ate it up because it was something that they had never seen before. And Walt that was his specialty.
Yeah.
He really knew how to create something that people had not seen before. Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of places have tried to mimic, but I mean, nothing is going to, even though Disneyland may not have like those giant roller coasters or really just kind of something that like Universal or like any of those other amusement parks have. Like
it has the classic feeling to it.
It does. And I think it's more of just like nostalgia purposes.
Yeah.
Or just feeling like how you can transform like a movie and put it into reality.
Right.
And that's what I love about it.
It's amazing. I want to go. Cries.
I might go again. I don't know. We'll see.
Next year.
Yay.
Holding on to the hope.
So where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at History of the Podcast. You can also email us at historyofthepodcast@gmail.com.
We will catch you guys next week for a very interesting episode, I'm sure.
Yep, indeed.
Oh, God.
We will see you then.
Bye.